Hi, so time to do another subscriber report. This time it's going to be heavily focusing not just on YouTube but also Twitch. So with that in mind, I'm going to do it live on Twitch and then upload to YouTube later. Hi, said I'd do the subscriber report live. This way I can still upload it to YouTube as I've done for the previous ones, just to explain what this is for people who may not have seen it. I've had about 100 subscribers, new subscribers, since I did the last one. It's just something I do every now and then, as and when needed. You know, the last one was only like a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes it might not be for a month. Just to sort of go over what's been happening with the channel since the last one. Sometimes going back a bit as well to get people up to speed, but also to sort of say what people feel has worked, hasn't worked, moving forward, and what we'll do in the next sort of period of time, whatever that happens to be, the next 2 weeks or the next month or the next 2 months, whatever. So what this does is, if people tune in, then it means you can put some comments in here. We can sort of do a bit of a Q&A. If not, it's not a problem. As usual, just put comments below on YouTube, and then I'll be able to address those as well and pick those up later. So what I'll do first of all is, I think we'll pick up the comments from the last time. So we had a few. So which one are we going with first? This one was first, I think. Now this was I was talking about a video I put up on, it was some time ago now, when Legion was still in alpha, and I was just so surprised at how well one of the videos had done, and it was a cooking video, and I'd just literally gone in and I thought, okay, people, I know that people have anything that is a feature of Legion that is copied into Legion, people have a bit of a hang up about, because I think because Legion has been so bad for so many people, people have sort of thought, okay, so everything in WoD was bad, which I don't think it is. In fact, I am going to be doing a top 5 features in WoD at some point, as well as a worst 5, I've got to be fair. Possibly it's easier to do the first one than the last one, there'll be less competition, but anyway. But there have been good features. And some people might look at some features and think, oh, this is really bad. And the cooking, for example, has work orders. Do they work in the same way that WoD work orders work? No, they don't. They're completely different. They're just called work orders. So I thought I'll do a video just to explain how the cooking works. And there was a bit in there on first aid as well, as just general things with professions as well. I do hope before Legion launches to do some more detailed guides on professions. I did do that for WoD. Before I was even trying to build a channel, I actually did a few things based on the WoD beta, just for like friends and guildmates, and some of them actually got quite a lot of views without me even trying. At the same time, it's quite difficult to try. So what had happened with the cooking video is it didn't just naturally get a load of viewers. It turns out, because I saw lots of people viewing it, and I noticed that someone had retweeted it, someone who has quite a few followers on Twitter, and I thought, oh, okay, that's nice. And then it started getting loads and loads of views. Oh, what's going on here? And I was on Reddit, or just clicking through as I do usually, see if there's any good memes. And I saw my video, and I thought, I don't remember putting that up there. And so yeah, that got several thousand videos. Well, I thought, okay, that's nice. I wouldn't have thought, of all the videos I'd put out that weekend, that was not one of the ones I thought would do well. In fact, the videos I have been linking on Reddit each week, up until last week, I haven't bothered anymore, are actually my Archives of Warcraft series, the ones that are to do with dungeon features, vanilla dungeon features that are still in the game, just don't do anything anymore, and maybe some people would like to know the background to them. Because the first one I linked on Reddit did really, really well, and the second one did sort of okay, not as well. But mostly they've, I think people have not been that interested in them. There's been the odd one where they have. So I've just given up now. I've just thought, I won't post any of my videos on Reddit now because, first of all, it's self-publicity, which I think a lot of people will probably quite rightly take umbrage with. It's just a bit too try-hard, I think. So I'll just let it be. And I'll just carry on just using Reddit to look up dank memes. So what someone has said here, that the reason the cooking video is interesting for them is because the nature of Alpha and Beta in WoW, obviously upcoming expansion wants some information, and perhaps, I suppose, perhaps some people aren't doing very much on professions. It is quite hard to be testing professions at the moment, I have to say. I think you'd have to be very, very dedicated, and I don't think I'm super dedicated on it to the point where I will just wait, because it is very difficult, because you need multiple professions to work together with the way it's working in Legion. And you can't mail each other things. So if I've got, like, I've now mirrored my beta paladin on my live paladin, so it's an enchanter and a blacksmith, and it's quite slow doing anything with enchanting. I'm disenchanting everything I'm getting. I'm level like 104, and I still haven't got enough dust to make one enchant. And the same with blacksmithing. It's just a blacksmith because I'm going to have my demon hunter and DK as miners, and and I can do that in beta, and I can collect ore, but I can't mail it to myself yet. So until they enable that, or allow character copies and they enable the mailing, it's going to be very tricky to test professions out. I mean, it's quite annoying actually. You start off at level 1 in the profession. I would think for beta, especially when they're not doing character copies, they would give you the option at least. I mean, let you start from level 1 to test some things out, but then maybe give you the option to accelerate it to 700 and test it out as if you would start in Legion. But, you know, that's just me. What else did they say? If you think about it this way as well, many people would have been upset with the direction Blizzard took professions in Warlords of Draenor, so having someone make a video and show how it could be different and that may be improved is a big deal, which, yeah, I guess they're right with that. I think that is probably the case. And here's a comment about Reddit, because I'd mentioned Reddit. It says, Reddit, while frowning on self-promotion, doesn't discourage YouTube as a platform. I will post a link on there to your videos because they're high quality and informative. Thanks very much. And I think people who are interested in World of Warcraft right now have an itch for Vanilla Wrath content. I mean, I don't do a lot of that. I don't want to sort of make out that that's going to be a big feature of anything. After all, like the vanilla thing, for those who maybe have just been a subscriber relatively recently, it literally started out when I was leveling my mage. I've got loads of mage. I've got loads of everything. There's been nothing to do in what level else, but so I've got lots of them. But the latest mage, and I was going through Stratholme and noticing lots of little things that are still there that don't do anything anymore. But I remember what they did, so I did a video on it, and it did quite well. And then I was always going to do like a few in the series anyway, but you know, seeing as so many people do like them, I've continued it. The one for this weekend hasn't been put out yet. It's Razor Fen Downs. I've got the footage and screenshots for it. I just need to compile it and narrate it. So that's looking like tomorrow. Today, it was a sport day today. Not me playing sport. I'm far too old, in fact, for that now. Well, not old, but too unfit. So, but yes, it was the Headingley Test for the cricket, and it was the FA Cup final for the football. So I've been a bit busy just watching that and chomping on crisps. But yeah, I'll do that tomorrow and get that out. But at some point that's going to end. It's not going to be a core feature. Although I love talking about the game and any aspect of the game, going right back. I can talk about going right back to Warcraft, Orcs versus Humans, if you like, over 10 years, over 20 years, sorry. But, you know, it's like thinking, okay, the dungeons thing, I'm nearly at the end of those. I'm not going to do all the dungeons. It will be most of them by the time I've done. There's some dungeons where I thought, there's not really worth doing. But with some of there's a few more dungeons to do. Then I will do the raids, and then maybe a couple of bits on PvP, because I'm not a PvP player at all at the moment. But I did do some PvP at the time. There was sense in doing it even for PvE and vanilla, and maybe a little bit in TBC. So by all means that. But after that, I mean, the series will probably end by the time Legion launches. And unless people put requests in that I think, yeah, actually that would be fun doing that. And I'm always up for requests. At the end of the day, as I always say, what's the worst that could happen is I say, no, that wouldn't be fun. Because it has to be fun for me as well. Because, you know, I don't have like tens of thousands I don't need hundreds of thousands. I don't have the tens of thousands of views that make this a job for me. It's not a job. It's something fun. It's something I enjoy doing. And in terms of the guides, which is what I want to be the main focus, it's something I feel quite passionate about. In particular, good accurate guides on Retribution Paladins, as well as any other specs I happen to play, but of course mainly Retribution Paladins, as well as general guides on helping people into raiding. That is something I want to do a lot of in Legion, because I think there's a lot of people who might like to do raiding or do raiding at a high level and see barriers where perhaps someone who's been through the experience themselves, from going from a complete fool in their first raid to someone who actually copes at close to the highest level now. But yes, I'm not going to post anything else anymore. I don't really, it's quite difficult knowing how to promote. I mean, I think the main way to promote is networks of people. I don't have large networks of people. I don't know lots of other people in the game. So it'll just grow organically, I guess. I think it will just do that. You know, with the guides, possibly I will post a few on forums, but they will either be seen or they won't. The players should be able to find your videos. Honestly, surprised you haven't hit 10,000 subscribers yet. You know, it takes a certain amount of time, I think. There are, I mean, it's not like rapidly expanding, but again, it's because I don't necessarily have the network to be able to get it out there at a rapid rate. There are other YouTubers, World of Warcraft YouTubers I follow. You know, like that big ones. What I would call big ones is ones that have over 100,000 subscribers. They've got the old YouTube silver play button, and what I did quite recently is with some. I'm not going to name names. There's only so many that would be classed as big that do exclusively World of Warcraft stuff. I know you can probably guess most of them. I'm not going to say who's my favourite, but you know, I've looked at some of them and looked at like their really old videos and tried to work out what sort of rate it's taken, and for some of them it seems to have taken quite a long time to get started, and then I think once you get above a certain amount it sort of accelerates. I mean, with a lot of them, not all of them, there's one where this didn't happen, but with most of them, like when they hit 100,000 subs, and I'm not expecting to hit those dizzying heights myself, but you know, for the ones that have succeeded and managed that, what you often find is quite quickly they accelerate to 150 really, really quickly. It's almost like hitting that 100,000. And I think this actually may be the case. Because think about it, if YouTube go to all the trouble and expense of sending you the silver play button, it's like a big wall plaque, then maybe they promote you themselves actively a bit more. So maybe there is a material difference in just getting over that threshold. But I think, you know, it takes time, and you can be quite slow at the beginning unless you are very, very good at marketing yourself. And then after that, it can, if you get to a respectable level, maybe it accelerates a little bit then, as word gets about. But we'll see, found an untapped market. I mean, I'm hoping what you mean by that. It depends what you mean, because I cover various bits of content. What I see it mostly being is, and I'll go over it in a minute where I see it with different phases, is helping people to get into the various aspects of the game that I enjoy. And it's not just raiding. I love raiding. If it weren't for the raiding, I probably would play other MMOs, but I still enjoy other parts of the game as well. Less so PvP. Frequency of uploads. I mean, yeah, I don't necessarily know that everything is for everyone's cup of tea, but you know, there's several a week. Usually more loaded at the weekend, but again, this is because I have a job during the week, and so at the moment, of course, because raiding is not a feature of evenings apart from Wednesdays, I also have some time in the evenings, but mostly you would expect for most of the time, especially during progress, that weekends will be the main thing. And of course, during progress, it's very likely that most of my content will focus around raiding and guides and things like that as well. But there would be other content as well. I will always do vlogs on it. I mean, everyone on YouTube likes to have their say. As I always say, all YouTubers are gobshites. We all want our say. So there'll always be vlogs and just general discussions about what I think about things. I just try not to say my opinions as if they're facts. I don't think I'm going to become an NPC in Azeroth somewhere. And I don't think I'd want to be, because if I ever became reasonably well known, I think I would upset Blizzard, and they would probably make me a gnome. And we don't want that. Because You know, I mean, it's one of these things as well. I mean, people who've like watched a reasonable amount of videos, you probably know that in some of my videos, I'm absolutely slating Blizzard. On other ones, I'm not at all. And on balance, you'll find I'm probably more positive. I mean, that's obvious. I play this game, and I've played this game for over 10 years, with a sizable break in the middle, admittedly, and all the Warcraft games beforehand. And so obviously, I love the game, which means obviously I think there are more positives than negatives. But I do think there are negatives, and I'm not particularly diplomatic. I'm from a place, for those who don't know, and of course there's only so many people from the UK that watch this. I know there's a lot of people in like the US and Canada, northern and mid-Europe as well as I mean, I've got, look on the demographics, some viewers as far away as Japan, which is pretty cool. But most of them are concentrated in those blocks. And I come from a place called Yorkshire. Now, we are quite well known in Britain. People from Yorkshire as the phrase is that we say what we like and we like what we bloody well say. In other words, we don't sugarcoat things. We say it exactly as it is. And some people don't get on with that. They think it's rude. It can be considered rude in some places. But yeah, I don't mince my words as such. I tried not to be rude. I think there is a line somewhere between being plain speaking and being rude. Hopefully, I'm not rude. I've put that one back up. No, it's this one next. Still need to get used to this. So it says, as far as guides go, because I'd mentioned here that there's no, at the time I did, and this was at the start of May, so it's actually 3 weeks ago now. No point in me doing guides yet. I'd noticed someone had tried to do a guide on Retribution Paladins, and I thought, and this is what I'm trying to get away from, people who do crap guides that are actually useless to you at best, and at worst will make you a worse player. And they think that 10 minutes in front of a training dummy, going, oh, spinny yellow flashy things, this is how to do it, is going to help anyone. But so yeah, I don't want to do guides until I am sure that what I am presenting will be suitable for when people get to do this live. So the comment here, greatest point is to do a guide with things constantly changing. Of course, they are changing less so now. I do think you could do a sort of overview on how the systems are progressing through the alpha and what you would like to see of them in future updates. And this is potentially a good idea. And this is something that actually potentially could come through Twitch, perhaps, because it is quite... The one downside to doing this and to doing this stream now is when I put it up YouTube, you'll probably notice it's not quite the same as the last subscriber report because it doesn't look like it's been edited. It won't be edited because the software I'm using, which is XSplit Broadcaster, I cannot find any way to record it simultaneously and stream it. I can record it, I can do stuff on here and record it, or I can stream, and I don't appear to be able to do both. And I'm not sure whether that's the case, but I've tried looking on forums and things like that, and I can't find anything that says otherwise. Now, I also have Gamecast, which is what I use for my streaming of the game. But, and that can do both at the same time, so I don't understand why this can't. It sort of made me think it probably can. So the only way I could think of getting the actual video file that I'm doing here is to upload it to YouTube, but private, so no one else can see it, then download my own bloody video from YouTube, then edit it, delete that, and then upload it back to YouTube in its edited form. I don't really have time for that. As I say, I have, a job, a full-time job. Editing takes quite a while in itself without having all that palaver, and I also have other things that I like to do as well. I occasionally like to play World of Warcraft, for a start. So yeah, the time for doing that would be ridiculous. So what I try to do is set everything up here so that I can make it look like it's reasonable. So any waffle here, sorry, is gonna stay in. But nonetheless, the opportunity for using this system, and although when I'm starting, like I'm doing it at the moment, and you could argue I'm not getting the benefit at the moment of it being live because there's not lots of people watching it and providing comments and stuff like that, which is fine. But maybe if we keep it going, maybe people will see it as a good way of getting comments in straight away and getting responses straight away, because that's really important. I mean, where I am at the moment in terms of responses is I'm absolutely free. If you send messages to me, you get responses. If you put something on my in the comments section that looks like it requires a response, then I will respond to it. I'm not someone, as I say, who's getting a ridiculous number of comments each day to the point where they can't possibly read through them all, much less reply to them all. That's not the case. I'm easily able to reply to them all. There are a couple of people, by the way, if you sent me an email and not got reply back, it might be because I've tried to reply to a couple of people and it said, oh, this account doesn't exist. It's like, okay, it's as if people create a YouTube account to email me and then delete it. I don't know. But I have responded to everyone that I can. But this would allow it to be an instant thing, which also allows other people to get in on the discussion, because YouTube comment section is hardly a forum. And you know, posing a question and getting a response is one thing, but posing a question, getting a response, someone else comes in with something, is a discussion, and that is far more fruitful. So yes, sort of overview on how this is progressing. So this could be a good thing, and it could be a good thing for me to do live. And as I say, if it gets to the point where people aren't watching it, it's not a problem. I can still upload it to YouTube. People can watch it in their own time, because I'm still not sure about the times. I've started recently to do these streams at like 10 o'clock UK time. That'll be different times in different parts of the world. And it is quite tricky because, as I say, I know that I've got a lot of people from the US and Canada watching this, and some from South America as well, similar time zones. But there are also people, a sizable number of people from the British Isles, UK, Republic of Ireland, France, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, Holland. And it covers a lot of time zones, so finding one time that's suitable for everyone is quite tricky. Tomorrow the streaming is going to be at 7 o'clock UK time, a bit of an earlier one. But again, I'm thinking, well, it's Sunday, so even if people on the west of the Atlantic might be able to catch that if they're not doing anything else. And it's also probably more convenient than this time is for people to the east. I mean, there's people who a significant number of people watch my stream for which this is past midnight, or getting to it is now past midnight over there. So it's a tricky one doing the times, and I probably do need to mix it up a little bit as far as I can. And for the people who do miss it, okay, you know, do watch it on YouTube, and then hopefully the next time I do it, it'll be a different time or something like that. I don't know. But I will be quite close to doing some basic guides at least. I'm confident enough now, as much as everyone is saying they hope Blizzard will change some things about retribution penalties, I now don't think they will. I'm going to give it another couple of weeks, maybe I might only give it 1 week. And then I think I'm going to say it's going to be as it is, and I'm probably going to do the first Retribution guide, but it will be pre-Ashbringer. In other words, it'll be for the period of time when the pre-patch comes out, which might be for as much as like 6 weeks. It could be between a month and 6 weeks, I would say, that we're going to be playing the new set, the new toolkit, before Legion even launches. So I'm going to put a guide out for that. If worse comes to worse and a major change was happening, obviously I'm just going to have to take that off the playlist and do another one. But I am reasonably confident that's not going to happen. I don't think they're going to make major changes now. I think it's just tuning. I think that's all there is. So I'm ready to do that. There are other things I could do guides on as well, not necessarily related to the specs, and then just slowly over time start to do more of those. Now, in terms of that, what I thought I will show you is my sort of grand plan. So let's have a look. So I've talked about phases before, but just to bring people up to speed. So phase 1 was alpha, basically. It was the period of time in which I was in alpha specifically, where I was able to test stuff. So what we had was YouTube, and what I was doing on a reasonably regular basis was Retribution Paladin updates. We basically had new builds virtually every week, so there was like updates every week. So that was quite a common piece of content on the YouTube channel. Havoc, Demon Hunter updates, less frequently. It has to be said they were less frequent, but that's because changes were not as seismic as for the Retribution Paladin. Also, I know the Retribution Paladin much better. Few on how professions work, very limited because it's very difficult to test. It was very difficult to test then. It's very difficult to test even now without spending ridiculous amounts of time on it. Dungeon gameplay, and I'm going to be doing much more of that as well. I mean, what I did yesterday, I was streaming yesterday. I usually, when I'm going to stream, I will only sort of stream for like a couple of hours because, of course, we should take regular breaks, and I need to model good behaviour. I know some people just stream for hours and hours. That's not good for you. Don't play for hours and hours. But what I did with yesterday's stream is rather than try and do an edited version like I did the week before, I did, and partly it's to save time, but also I think because the dungeon gameplay part is what we get most interest. Like, I was streaming my leveling, and a lot of the time I'm thinking, okay, there isn't actually a lot to say here. I could like tell jokes or something, or juggle. And there's not actually a lot to say when you're leveling. Once you've got, there's a few things maybe to say, and then you're just doing a quest. There's you know, one nag is much the same as another. There's not very much to add. But in a dungeon, very different, because there's the interplay of different players, different specs and classes in your group, and again the interplay with those, as well as the mechanics and all the rest of it. So what I did is I just basically took the dungeon gameplay and put that in a video. I also had a little thing at the end where I was talking about the Retribution block, simply because I hadn't really talked about that for a long time, and because I talked about it, I thought I'll put that in as well. Didn't take that long to edit it then. And expansion commentary, which is just my sort of vlogs, my views on it. So that is mostly what it's been in what's called Phase 1. Now, we're not in Phase 1 anymore. We are now in what I call Phase 2, which is beta. This is beta, but before the pre-expansion patch. So in other words, we're still into Warlords of Draenor Live, but we're testing beta and Legion. Of course, those who've got beta keys, which is not everyone. So for the YouTube there, it's more now what I would call Retribution Paladin commentary. So it's not really updates because we're not being updated, apart from maybe tuning issues, but there's no point in really commenting much about that because we might get an ability tuned upwards one week and then down another week. So it's more commentary, and this again will probably take the form of like edited streams where, you know, I'm in dungeons or a dungeon, because it takes so long to queue up for it. If I do a 2-hour stream, I can get one dungeon out of that. But sometimes there might be other things as well, and I might just do a normal video, not from the stream. Havoc Demon Hunter, so I'm going to be streaming the Havoc Demon Hunter tomorrow on Sunday, and then back to the Retribution Paladin on Monday. How professions work, at some point we are going to be allowed character copies, and at some point we're going to be allowed to mail each other. So at that point, then I'm going to start to do a lot more work on professions, because I like professions. I've mentioned this before. When I play MMOs, I like to do a lot of stuff on professions. In any MMO, I spend a lot of time. I'm really slow to level when I play an MMO for the first time, simply because I'm spending so much time on my professions. Whereas, of course, it would be more efficient just to level up, then go back, when the easier content allows you to skill up the professions more easily, but I don't do that. Dungeon gameplay itself, I might actually do some commentaries on dungeons. I don't think I'm going to do guides on dungeons as such. There's a couple of reasons for that. I actually think there are people who will probably do good guides anyway. But the other thing is, I think it's going to be quite difficult to do guides as such. Sure, you could do guides for the normal and heroic versions, but those are not usually massively challenging. And I might do a really quick one, but they're not usually a massive problem for people after a while anyway. Limited shelf life or something like that. It's all about the Mythic Plus. And there, how do you do a guide when it's so different? Because your Keystone, which you'll be wanting to level up, is going to give you random buffs on enemies and debuffs perhaps for you, and things like that as well to make it more complicated. And there's so many permutations of these that, although you can do a video sort of pointing a few things out to people, you can't do a definitive guide, because the whole point of this is it's like a different dungeon experience every time based on the Keystone. That's what Blizzard are going for the repeatability. They're not, and it's quite clever of them really, they're not just going for incentivizing you to run them all the time like with Valor Points like they used to. They're actively going for them being different and therefore engaging your brain and sense of fun, which is a very good idea, and I hope they pull it off. Expansion commentary, again, vlogs, and then, as I've noted there, early guides. So I think within a couple of weeks I could probably get a pre-Ashbringer, pre-Legion launch Retribution guide out. Whether I do one, because I'm going to think in terms of beginner's guide and intermediate guide. Whether I do one of each or just do an all-in-one, I haven't yet decided. It depends how it goes when I start actually compiling the video. The next part would be Phase 3. This would be when the pre-expansion patch launches. So we're still sort of in beta. Legion hasn't launched yet, but we have all the Legion abilities live. So then there's a lot more people all of a sudden wanting information because it's now live. So pre-artifact spec guides, more than just the Retribution Paladin, I will do at least Demon Hunters, and I may do a couple of others depending. I'm not going to do all by any means. I'm not going to learn all the specs. I'd not intended to play all the specs. For brief guides, I mean, of course, Preach does those anyway. There's no point in trying to duplicate what already a popular YouTuber does. I mean, the purpose of my guides will be more detailed ones anyway. So I'm only going to do that for the small number of specs that I have detailed knowledge on. And it might be as few as 2 or 3 specs. New Legion feature guides. Again, there's going to be other features that are brought with the pre-expansion patch, not just changes to our characters. So I'm going to be talking about those. There'll be some things that people want to know to prepare for. Like professions is always something that people want to know how they prepare for. I don't think there's the need to prepare so much as there used to be. But nonetheless, I will get people ready for that and help people out what would be a good idea to have done before it launches to give you an easier time. Dungeon overviews. So, you know, semi-guides. They're not necessarily going to be guides as such, but just to point out a few things. Profession overviews, again, looking at the sort of things you can get from professions if you haven't at this point decided what professions you're going to go with. I'll go through what is going to be the benefits of each one, which are still up in the air for some of them. So we'll wait till much more is known. But during Phase 3, much more will be known. So I'll go over that. And then the triple question mark is basically whatever people suggest. If people have got some suggestions for the sorts of content that they want on anything, not just related to Legion, then again, it's one of those things. If I think it'll be enjoyable doing it and I think it'll be useful and fits in with the channel, absolutely. And then on Twitch, of course, live seminars is the way I see it going during this period. Live streaming of beta, if people are still up for it, fine. But I'm going to be honest and suggest that probably it will get old by then. I think it's going to get old quite quickly now, to be honest with you, because when I'm streaming, what am I doing? I'm just leveling through a zone and then doing a dungeon. At some point, I'll get to level 110 on various characters. And then, okay, it might be interesting to see me do some dailies. But again, beyond that, where's the interest? I mean, I'll do it as long as people are interested. Absolutely, no problem. Because if I'm going to play it anyway, it's no big hassle for me just to stream it for a couple of hours. But I definitely see Twitch as being really, really good for doing like shows like this, where people can interact immediately or with a delay of like so many seconds and get responses. I mean, the Retribution Q&A that was done was great, absolutely fantastic. That couldn't have gone any better. I expected that to last maybe half an hour, and it lasted just over an hour, which was amazing. So that sort of thing will be really good. And then again, what people are interested in. Now, one thing you'll notice that's not on here again at the moment is about, because what people originally asked for was streaming raids like when I do Hellfire Citadel. I did do an unofficial one, like I didn't schedule it, I didn't tell anyone about it, but I did stream Hellfire Citadel, Mythic. Was it this week just gone? I think it might have been this reset. I'm pretty sure it was. But again, people who may have watched that, I noticed a few people watching it. I don't know if there's anyone of my subscribers that's watching this now. What you would notice is it's not necessarily great. If you want to watch me play, fine, great. But bear in mind that one of the great things about Twitch is this interactivity. That's completely absent. If I am streaming a raid guild, a guild raid, sorry. Get words in the right order, Phil. I'm focusing on the raid. So I'm not going to be looking at chat. It's not going to be there for me. I'm not going to be, doing any commentary. I've got to listen to the people in my raid and my raid leader most especially. My raid leader's probably not going to be happy that I'm having conversations with other people anyway, because my mind's off the job. Even on farm, it seems a little bit rude. And there'll be 2 conversations going on at once anyway, because there'll be team speak in my ear roll, as well as things that I might be saying, and that's just going to be... it's just a bit disrespectful, I think. And certainly when it comes to progress not happening at all. Although I will probably stream progress, because it's also useful for people on the bench. I mean, if I'm on the bench, I always watch someone stream anyway. So if I'm not on the bench, and if I'm actually in there, I could stream again for the benefits of people on the bench, although there'll be other people in my guild that stream as well. But it'll be the same rules. I won't be able to see any chat. My mind will be completely focused on that. So although people can have conversations amongst themselves in the chat, I won't be able to see it. And I will put a little message to that effect in the title saying I cannot see chat. And I might need to make it even clearer. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that without obscuring my own UI, because I did notice after I did that stream of the Hellfire Citadel, someone did actually ask something, which I didn't, of course, see at the time. But I noticed later on that they had. So I need to make it really clear to people who might just be dropping in, which would be really important. But again, like, what do people think would be a good thing at that period to stream? And of course, we can. I mean, Phase 3 isn't yet. Phase 3 is not likely to be till maybe mid-July at the earliest. So we've got time to be thinking about that and putting in suggestions for that. And then Phase 4 is Legion goes live. So YouTube at that point will be focused on intermediate spec guides. Hopefully all the beginners ones will have been done before it launches, as well as some intermediate ones, I hope. But intermediate spec guides, that not necessarily just Retribution Paladins, but it won't be a huge number. As I say, I'm not going to chuck stuff out just for clicks. If it's not a good, if I don't think it's good quality product, I'm not going to put it out there. That's what I started the channel for in the first place. I mean, I've had my channel for years. I only just what I would call started it around about late summer, just because I'm trying to make sure people have got the right information out there. I'm not going to do that by putting out poor quality stuff on specs that I only know a little bit about. Raid guides, I mean, these, I don't want to mislead with this one. This is likely to be, I'm always conscious of the fact that a raid strategy, there's more than one. It's quite funny actually, because the guild I'm in now, when I first joined, I asked how they do different bosses, and the guild leader basically said, well, probably the same as everyone else. But I'm not going to be happy with that. I looked through streams and I wrote down my questions and bugged them for questions I had about them. And basically, none of the fights were done in the same way that I'd done them with previous guilds. And some people get into that mindset. They think that they're doing them in the most obvious way. But in actual fact, you know, strategies are massively varying depending on the composition of your raid roster. And indeed what you just think is a good idea at the time, and maybe how quickly you're progressing through it and all the rest of it. So two different guilds will do fights in completely different ways without even realising it, without realising that they're doing anything unique. So I'm always conscious of that. So what I will usually do, and also there are always people who do really good guides as well. I'm not trying to duplicate what others are doing a perfectly good job about. If like no one was doing good quality raid guides, then yes. But there are people who do it. Fat Boss do that. Proper Bird does that. Doesn't actually have loads of subscribers, far more than me. But she did a really good job of Hellfire Citadel mythic guides. So what I will tend to focus on is like tips, things that aren't usually covered in these guides. I did one for Gorefiend in Hellfire Citadel, which was reasonably well received by those who watched it. That's the sort of thing I'll be going for. I will be going on the assumption that you've already looked at a guide, but you're having difficulty with certain elements of the fight, and I want to offer practical advice on those aspects of the fight. Of course, once I am comfortable enough to do that myself. Don't expect these on week one. We need to wait until I feel sufficiently confident to offer advice on these fights as well. But it should be sufficiently ahead of the curve for most viewers. And then again, question mark, question mark, question mark, what else? Bearing in mind my focus during progress will be progress, so the videos are likely to be related to that. They will still include vlogs on other things as well. They may also include little quick guides on non-raiding aspects of the game that I'm engaging in, perhaps even dungeon advice, Mythic Plus dungeon advice, something like that. Or even professions, because I'll still, even though it'll be quite difficult for me to keep up with professions in Legion because there's so much to do, I still like professions. I want to spend some time on them, and so I might be able to do some more on that as well. But again, suggestions welcome. When it comes to Twitch, what I've put here is non-interactive progress PvE. So this is like raid streaming, maybe some Mythic Plus dungeon streaming. But again, just note that when I'm in these things, I won't be seeing chat, I won't be doing any commentary or anything like that. You will literally just be watching me play. And as soon as I'm not, let's say I'm put on the bench, I will stop streaming. So it's like, see ya. I suppose what I could probably do at this point, just to, so I'm not completely rude, is if I do end up on the bench, I could at least, put the chat up, see if there has been anything, and at least just then explain, okay, I'm on the bench now, I'm going to stop streaming. If I'm put back into the raid, I will start streaming again, but don't hold your breath. But of course, if you're following me on Twitter, what I might also do, I haven't at the moment, I might link it up so that it automatically broadcasts to Twitter when I start streaming. Live seminars again, Q&As are something I'm very positive about if these take off. It's a really good use of Twitch in my mind. Twitch isn't just a tool for streaming gaming, of course that's very interesting in its way, but I'm really positive about Q&As. And as I say, the Retribution one went really well. So yeah, if someone wants to suggest another type of Q&A to do, because I don't think we need to do another Rep one for a while, go ahead, because I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was amazing. And then again, any other suggestions? And that is it in terms of the phases. Now, what else did I want to go through? I mean, the other thing is just in terms of content on the video, on the YouTube channel, because I do it on a number of different things. So if I switch to here, of course, what we have is, so, hold on. I do it on a number of different things. So what in terms of some of what I created some time ago, I can't remember when I did this exactly. I think it might have been about November. I realised that I had different types of content and that there were different types of subscribers to my channel. Some of them, of course, there's a lot of people on the Retribution Paladin side of it. I assume that is because there is so little information on YouTube, accurate information about Retribution Paladin, so I expect that, and that's really good. Some people are not Retribution Paladin players or even Paladin players at all, but interested in raiding, sure. Some people are not interested in raiding or Paladins. Why not? But if you're not, that's fine. There's other types of content I do as well. So what I did is I make sure I design like thumbnails for almost all the content so that you can see straight away, because if you're a subscriber, I know what it's like. I subscribe to like about 20 different YouTubers, not all of them World of Warcraft ones. And I don't watch everything. I don't watch every video. I see what looks interesting. And you want to tell from the thumbnail and the title perhaps what it's about. You don't want to click on it and then it's, oh no, that's not what I want at all. So I try to make it clear. So there's a bit on the side is just for non-World of Warcraft games. I haven't done any of those recently. It's not going to be a main feature, but every now and then, if I'm going to spend a bit of time on another game, maybe it'd be interesting just to sort of bring that up. General abilities, this is for non-Retribution Paladin specs, so Havoc, Demon Hunter, and professions, of course, in Legion, again, is something that, I've not been able to do as much of, but where I can, I try and put some stuff like that in. And again, hopefully these thumbnails make it really clear what it's about. Different people have different ways of doing it. I know as Heels vs Babyface usually just has like a generic image background, but then he has large text telling you what that video is about as well, so it's always really clear what it's about. This is sort of my way of doing it. I want to dual wield, always. And I do in other MMOs as well. I mostly, where it's an option to pick something that is, there isn't always the archetype or paladin, so but I always pick what I think looks close, and I always go for something that can dual wield if I can. Professions, of course, in Legion again is something that I've not been able to do as much of, but where I can, I try and put some stuff like that in. And again, hopefully these thumbnails make it really clear what it's about. Different people have different ways of doing it. I know as Heels vs Babyface usually just has like a generic image background, but then he has large text telling you what that video is about as well, so it's always really clear what it's about. This is sort of my way of doing it. Of course, Retribution Paladin in Legion, it says Legion Alpha. I should change that to Legion Beta now, shouldn't I? Yes, I should do that. World of Warcraft, just my general vlogging. Now, when it comes to that, there is also this one, the community forum type content. Sometimes they blur a little, this and the general vlogs, what it's supposed to be, just to try and distinguish them a little bit. These World of Warcraft are just things that that come out of my like warped brain. Whereas the community one is supposed to be stuff that is actually being discussed. That's the distinction. It's stuff that's already being discussed, and I'm just throwing my hat into the ring in terms of what I think. Whereas this is more sort of videos that I haven't seen discussed on forums and such. That's not to say it's not being discussed, I just haven't seen it. The discussion has just been prompted by something I've thought of. And then, of course, just general stuff on the Broken Isles. There's plenty of content on the Broken Isles, so it's sort of, sometimes I do videos on that and it's worthy of its own sort of category. So these are the sort of things that I would, the categories that everything should fit into. You'll notice I haven't got a thumbnail for the Archives of Warcraft. There are two reasons for that. One is that it's a limited series, unless people think of something else they want me to do in terms of nostalgia stuff after that. It is a limited series that will come to an end, hopefully just in time for Legion, because it'd be a bit annoying to put it on a massive hiatus. The only downside is we're getting to the point now where some of these videos might take a little bit longer. Like, as I say, Razorfen Downs is a little delayed this week, but that's a sporting related thing. But that should be out tomorrow. There's another dungeon, might only be as few as, no, hold on. 3 more dungeons, I think, coming after that I'm going to do. And again, they don't take that long. But then the raid stuff might take me a bit longer to do justice to it. So it might be that they come out at a rate of every 2 weeks after that. We'll have to see. But, so they don't have their own thumbnail for that reason, because it's quite a limited one. The other thing is it's actually quite fun just to see what YouTube comes up with for the thumbnail for those as well. So that's everything I wanted to get out there, and hopefully I've addressed the comments that people did make. So what I'd like to do is, if you've got any comments, by all means put them in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter if you're interested in watching my stream. And if you've got any ideas for things you want me to do on Twitch as well, by all means do that. As I say, the thing I'm most positive about is the idea of live interactive seminar type shows. That I think is a massive opportunity. And I will keep doing those. And it really doesn't matter. It's one of those things like this. It doesn't matter if people make any comments in the chat or not, because the opportunity is there. If people don't use it, you can still put them in YouTube, and I can still get back to you and bring it up in the following subscriber report. And of course, I never know when the next subscriber report is going to be. It all, you know, I'm obviously not going to set a date, because then if nothing significant has changed since then, or no one's had any comments about the channel, then there's really no need to do one. But I will do them as and when it feels necessary. I mean, let's say over the next week, suddenly I get an extra 1,000 subscribers and there's like 20 different comments in the thing. Obviously, I will do it next week. That's probably not going to happen. So more realistically, it'll be a case of we'll try the streaming for a little bit more. And again, the next one is probably going to be based on the streaming. Maybe I'll do it after I do my first Legion guide, which might be in a couple of weeks. So maybe it would be mid-June-ish, just off the top of my head, but maybe earlier, maybe later, it all depends. But anyway, hopefully that's been useful. If you are a new subscriber and you haven't seen my new these subscriber reports, then welcome. Again, I say this at the end, that's no good. But these are like for subscribers. I do want to make sure I'm getting plenty of feedback. I do respond very well to feedback without feeling the need to agree to everything everyone says. I'm perfectly capable of saying, no, actually, I don't agree with you. And don't worry about it, but say what you think. Don't hold back because you think I might think it's a silly idea. There's no such thing as a silly idea. The only silly ideas are the ones you keep in your head and don't tell anyone about. Okay, so until next time, I'll see you later.